Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, whatever part of the world you are tuned in from. We're about to get funny, funny like a clown. This is a podcast where we review comedians. We have on comedian guests. We have on guests that have to do with, acting in comedian movies. It's all about comedy, baby. So if you like to learn, you like to laugh, you're in the right place. November 28th, 2021, episode 132. As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time, there's only one G Vegas. Available at www.gvegas.webs.com. Go there, check it out. Tell them Funny Like a Clown podcast sent you. And I don't know if that'll get you a discount or not, because usually, they say, like, if we sent you, you get a discount. I don't think you won't get a discount, but, at least they'll know somebody's listening to my freaking podcast. So that's always a good thing, too. All right. Hey, we're reviewing comedian today. And the comedian we're going to review, Mr. Richard Belzer, which I got to say, I was never a big fan, but I was a fan. I mean, the guy just kept popping up. And, oh, yeah, all right, Richard, don't forget about him, man. Don't forget about Mr. Belzer, because guy was around a long time, had a legendary career, and may we all be so lucky in this business, I guess, right? Comedian, best known for his role of John Munich on NBC's Homicide, Life on the Street, and Law and Order Special Victims Unit, as well as numerous appearances as a character on other series. He portrayed the character, get this, okay? 23 years he portrayed that character in various forms. You do anything for 23 years, and that's just striking gold right there, okay? You do something for 23 hours, you're doing pretty good in comedy. You do it for 23 years, that's freaking unheard of. That's legendary status right there. Let's see. Finally, he retired from the role at the age of 71 in 2016. So, 1993 to 2016, portrayed the character for 23 years. Man, that's like almost a quarter of a century right there. All right, born in Connecticut, and I found this one interesting here. Okay, now we've talked a lot about how comedians get started. Okay, and this is one of the more different ways to get started. I wouldn't call it a good way, but I could relate to it because my father, he was a very verbally abusive man, so I get the whole abusive thing as a kid. And apparently, living in Connecticut, his mother was a very abusive woman, but she was physically abusive. So he said he actually started his comedy career by trying to make his mother laugh, because if he could get her to laugh, then that would save, him beating him and his brothers. So that's a strange way to start in comedy, by trying to make one of your parents laugh to avoid a beating. But I can understand that, because you do anything, try to pacify their mind, to keep their mind off of doing what they do to you. And it's a tough life, but what a way to get started right there. So, all right, so making mom laugh, that way she ain't beating him and his brother. Let's see. Later on in life, he got married and divorced, as most of us do. I don't know if we pay child support or not, but hey. After the divorce, he relocated to New York City, where he began starting working as a stand-up comedian at clubs like Pips, the Improv, and Catch a Rising Star, which, these are back in the day. Okay, these are the 70s. These are the legendary clubs of New York City right here. Nowadays, well, not now, after the pandemic, but I mean, up until recent years, it was Dangerfields, the Gotham, the Comic Strip Live. These are all the big clubs you want to get into. Back then, those were the ones for sure. Let's see. He was part of the Channel One comedy group that inspired the cult movie The Groove Tube. Okay, so you hear about that. You hear about the Ding Ho restaurant in Boston. The comics that started little groups there. Then the the outlaw comics in Houston. The groups that started there. Then the Comedy Store comics, the groups they started there. So hey, he was in one of these New York groups right there that inspired a cult classic movie. And speaking of movies, that's why I know I think I missed a week getting a podcast out to you guys, but I'll be getting two out here in the next few days, so I'll be making up for it. But yeah, I've been talking a long time about the movie there, The World Needs a New Superhero, that I'm starring in. And if you listen to the last episode with Adam Griswold, the director, as you will know, it is finished. And I got the movie. It's done. I got the trailer. I got the pictures. I got everything. I'm ready to advertise it. So looking into having a movie theater screening, and then hey, you guys can catch it on Amazon Prime. So I hope we do that. And I guess, yeah, like 12 years now, I've been portraying the character, the child support superhero. So I guess I got another 11 years to go, and I'll match Richard Belzer for how long I've portrayed the same character, I guess, right? But it has been fun. I remember seeing an interview with Richard Belzer, and he said it was fun to see the character grow over the years. Because even the director, I said when he tried out, he said he flat out told him he sucked. He said go home, practice, read again. Came in for a second read, he said he sucked again. But I guess he said after a while he grew into the role. Okay, so his comedy stardom was big enough where he could get the role, but he wasn't very good at it. But he eventually grew into the role and made it into a legendary role. So that's always cool. Let's see. He was the warm-up comic for Saturday Night Live, which that's the comic who'll go out, before the cameras go on and warm up the audience to get them laughing. Then you start the show and bring out the big guest, and they're ready for more laughs already. So remember what? Geez, there was a Boston comedian. He was on, I think Conan, and I watched that. And geez, they had some warm. They showed the warm-up comic, which usually they don't, but they showed him on TV. It's just, his whole routine. He just pointed at the crowd, said, "Make some noise, make some noise, make some noise." It was so simple. It was funny though. Then at the end, he just threw bagels into the audience. But it was funny, but nothing that was going to take away from the actual jokes that a mainstream comic was going to do after him. So I thought it was good for a warm-up gig. Not only the warm-up comic for Saturday Night Live, but 3 guest appearances from the 70s to 80s. Released his own comedy album, Excitable Boy. And then I guess he started out in the occasional films in the 70s and 80s. He was on season 9 of Sesame Street. He was on Fame, which was one of the more popular shows back in the 80s. I remember my sister liked that show. Cafe Flesh, Night Shift. I remember that was with Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler there. That was a very popular movie at the time. And all-time classic Scarface. Man, you're in that movie right there. That's a credit to your name right there. That'll sell clubs. You don't have to work a job for the rest of your life after having that credit. I was in Scarface. You're booked. Okay, that's basically how easy it is. But he was in 3 MTV videos, which back in the day, everybody was dying to be on an MTV video. That was like the most watched channel. It was such the hot place to be. Mike and the Mechanics had him in one. Pat Benatar had him in one, and the band Kansas also. So, man, just getting to be in those. I remember Milton Berle did one for Rat, and it was just so many people dying if you could appear in a good music video. It was such a highlight to your career. Let's see. They made the movies about the Brady Bunch. He was in a very Brady sequel. I think that was the second one. Well, the sequel, obviously, he was a sequel to the first one. He was a major player on radio. Okay, as much as he did, unless you listen to a lot of radio, you don't know radio careers. But if you're into radio, he was a featured player on National Lampoon Radio, which National Lampoon. You remember all the vacation movies with Chevy Chase and everybody. Here's who he's on radio with back in the day. You ever heard of these names? John Belushi, Chevy Chase, and Bill Murray from 73 to 75. So these are the top comedians of the time right there, kicking out movies. And this guy, he wasn't like a side player. This guy was like a major player with these guys. He was right on their same level. So that's just showing you how big this guy had got in the business to be playing radio with these guys. Let's see, in 1970s, he did Brink and Belzer on 660 AM. That was a WNBC station, which we all know WNBC was also the home of Howard Stern. So he was a frequent guest on Howard Stern's radio show, because he was on the same radio station as WNBC. If you ever seen the Howard Stern movie, which was a very funny movie. I did a show, I think an afternoon show on Air America Radio. He was a guest on Right Wing Radio Alex Jones' show, where he referred to the Boston Marathon bombings as a false excerpt. I guess he's a well-known conspiracy theorist, so he thought there were bigger things behind the Boston Marathon than just the bombing. Okay, but the government covers this stuff up, and you never know, and everybody's got their theories. Okay. But now, hey, I mentioned, okay, that I just got done filming the movie The World Needs a New Superhero, which the main character is me, the child support superhero. So I'm into the whole superhero thing. Here's one I didn't know about Richard Belzer. He was in the television series The Flash and Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. So he's got some superhero experience just like myself. So that makes him a cool guy. But like I said, in the '90s, I guess I mean, I personally I ran into the guy before he did when he was doing his stand up. Okay, because I mean, the late night, the Improv, they had like these TV shows, and you could catch a little bit of late night stand up, and that's where I knew the guy from. Which I thought he was a great stand up comedian, but I mean, his most success was as we mentioned, John Munch on Homicide, Life on the Street on NBC, and Law and Order, which is also on NBC. So two different shows, but he portrayed the same character, which shows you how popular it must have been. He actually portrayed it on a bunch of different other shows too over the years. Unbreakable, Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix, The X Files on Fox, The Beat on UPN, Arrested Development on Fox, the Wire on HBO, 30 Rock on NBC, Jimmy Kimmel on ABC. So, this character, like I said, 23 years and that many shows. He tied for playing the same character. I think it was on 6 different networks. He tied John Ratzenberger and George Wendt. As we know, they played, Cliff and Norm on Cheers. But I mean, after Cheers, they were on I think Wings, the TV show, if you remember that one back in the day. Frasier, that was the spinoff from Cheers. They played the characters on The Simpsons, had them on, but it was like 6 different places, and Belzer he tied George Wendt and Ratzenberger for 6 different appearances on 6 different networks as the same character. He was also breaking records for longest performances as the same character, pulled by James Ames, which he was Matt Dillon in the old TV show Gunsmoke, which my parents could tell you more about that, but I do remember Gunsmoke. I see the reruns every now and then. And also records held by Kelsey Grammer, who also had a long run on Cheers as Dr. Fraser Crane, then had a spinoff and had an even longer career as Dr. Fraser Crane. So that's just a long career as the same character. So just he's breaking records for just such a long career as the same character and all the different networks it was on. And just what a legendary, when you're remembered as that character and you typecast as them better than they remember, your regular name. It's like you're known as the character, not even you. Let's see, regular on Comedy Central's Friar Club roasts, and they still do the roast at the Friar Club, but Comedy Central used to air them there, live from the Friars Club. Here's the roast. Now Comedy Central does their own roast. They don't go to the Friars Club anymore. They just roast their own people, which is what it turned into. But good roast all started at the Friars Club, and they say the big saying was, "We only roast the ones we love." So there you go. We mentioned cartoons. He did some voice work for South Park, which was another legendary cartoon series. Let's see, a little about him. He survived testicle cancer, which any great comedian knows the only way you make it through something. I mean, you want to make it through cancer, you got to laugh about it. You got to laugh at your pain. That's how I made it through, parental alienation and family law and the hell I went through with, my ex trying to push me out of our son's life. Is I found my outlet through comedy. That's how I deal with it. And how did he get through testicle cancer? Apparently, he put out an HBO special, and he named it Another Lone Nut. So I guess that was a reference to he's a one nut man because he had one removed, or he's a nut in comedy. Either way, it's a what do they call it, a simile or something like that. I don't know, but where it could go either way. But you know what he's referencing to. Now here's one I guess I best remember him from. Well, I do. I remember he was on the Howard Stern show, and Howard was interviewing him. There was actually that him and this woman were together. Harley McBride, which she was in Playboy, and she had one of the popular. I guess it was. I guess you call it soft porn by today's standards, where it wasn't actual porn, but it was right to the edge, right before you had it. But I mean, it was on Cinemax. It was called Lady Chatterley. Well, this woman was just gorgeous, okay, and every teenage boy wanted to date this woman. Well, Richard Belzer, he got to date her, and apparently ended up they got together. So good for him. Yeah, he's you envy the guy, okay. It's like you envy Tommy Lee because he got Pam Anderson, so you gotta envy this guy because he got the hot woman of the day. So that's what comedy will do for you if you get to his level. Let's see, here's a funny one. During the 1985 WrestleMania, they were doing some promotion. Guess he was on TV with Hulk Hogan interviewing him, and he asked him to perform one of the moves that he was going to do. So Hulk put him in a headlock, and I guess I don't know if he realized or not, but Belzer, he couldn't breathe. He actually, once Hulk let him go, he passed out, hit the floor, had a lesion on his head, had to be hospitalized. And Belzer ended up suing Hulk Hogan for $5 million, which I guess it got settled out of court. But I mean, you asked him to do it. How can you sue the guy if you asked the guy to show you a move? And I guess got a little too rough with the move, I guess Hulk did. Who knows? But, when you're a big guy, you don't notice, if I guess if you're getting physical with someone. Let's see. So, as we mentioned, he had a bunch of books on conspiracy theories, everywhere from the JFK assassination to Elvis's death to UFOs, and some of these books actually made the New York Times bestseller list. So, if you want to talk about a good conspiracy, I guess this is the guy who did it. Like I said, he retired. I think he moved out to France, and he continues just to write his conspiracy theories. I mean, once you're 71, retired from acting. Legendary career. I hope the movie The World Needs a Superhero takes off, and I can make some sequels, and I can portray the character, the child support superhero, for another few years for you. Well, it has been fun. Yeah, just a character that I made in my routine, and all of a sudden it turns into a Facebook page, which takes off. Then all of a sudden it turns into some short videos, and all of a sudden now we're making like a major movie about it. So it's been fun to watch the character take off. And hey, I guess the movie will be the proof in the pudding. I can only hope it takes off like Richard Belzer's character did. And hey, if it does, we'll go down its legendary status, and you heard it here first on Funny Like Clown Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. Keep them laughing, folks. I had on the director last week, Adam Griswold, from the movie the World Needs a New Superhero, that I just got done after a year in the making. We finally got it done, and it'll be coming to you guys. And in a couple of days here, I'm going to be in on Randy Varagas, who plays my ex in the movie. So we'll have to get her take on the whole film, because we already got Adam's take. Until then, keep laughing, folks, and we'll see you next time. Funny Like Clown Podcast. Good night and good laughs.